Good morning, class. My name is Derek Kitterlin. I'm your professor for preaching from the Old Testament. Class is Amos and Hosea. I'm excited to have you in the class. I'm excited. I'm kind of disappointed because we're not able to be in class today. I was really looking forward to it. I had packed all my books and put them in my car and gotten ready to go down there. And then, of course, we're dealing with two hurricanes right now: Hurricane Marco, Tropical Storm Marco, and Hurricane Laura. Hopefully we'll be able to come to class next week or attend through, most of the class is actually going to be attending through the Echo 360. I know I'd sent an email. I don't know if you got it or not. It was before Blackboard opened, excuse me, about wondering who was going to be participating weekly from 5:30 to 8:20 and who was going to be watching mostly after the class or not during the live course. I'm really trying to design the class. This is first. I'll tell you, this is a newer class that's been designed. Preaching from is not new to Level College, but this class, Amos and Hosea, is a new class that has been designed. So I'm trying to think through how to best design the course to fit your needs and your own expectations. So if you would, just shoot me an email or send me a text number. Text my numbers on the right here on the syllabus. I'm going to be going over the syllabus right now. Just send me a message saying, I'm going to be in class if I can. If you can, I understand, but I just want to know kind of what your intentions are. Right now, there are 6 of us in the course. It's going to be a great number. Looking forward to the course. I want to spend a little time on what I would have done today would have been go over the syllabus. I'm not going to be able to do that, so I want to spend a little time here going over the syllabus. We have the first book. Whoa, got a mess. Is this book right here, the NIV application commentary. We have the book by Gary Smith, and you have 3 Old Testament prophets condensed into one. One of the reasons I primarily went with this textbook is I like Smith, and it's really, this book is application focused. This commentary is application focused, and it has both books. So you will read only the sections of Hosea and Amos, at least for this class. You don't have to read the introduction to Micah starting on page 419 to the end. And you will actually start by reading the section on Amos. So we will start with that section. That'll be before the September 14th class period, this week 4. So just be sure you've started that and have that read before the week. Also, you will see, and let me go back to that. As we read through, you'll read, according to the syllabus, you'll read your 2 chapters at a time. You'll just read these 2 chapters, these 2 chapters in Amos and Hosea. You'll move through whichever 2 we're covering, like on the syllabus on page 3, you have Amos 1:2, Amos 3:4, Amos 5:6. So just be sure you have that section read before. I know there is a weekly reading journal on assignment 1. The professor will assign selected passages from the book of Amos and Hosea. We're going to read the entire books of Amos and Hosea. So, for example, on week 4, you will read Amos chapter 1, Amos chapter 2. Let me see how many verses that is real quick. Let me pull this up. Amos chapter 1 is 15 verses, so Amos chapter 2 is 16 verses. Not a lot of reading. Should take you but about 5 minutes, to read that, at least in one translation, just to read it. You want to make notes also, because what you're going to have, if you look down on assignment 3, you're going to have a notebook. So you can use weekly journal 1, that some of that study period, some of that reading time will help you develop your notebook. So you're reading from in course requirement number 1 on page 2 of the syllabus, page 2 of the page 2 of the syllabus. Sorry, I forgot to put page numbers on it. Page 2 of the syllabus, you see the notebook, provide a background analysis for the books of Amos and Hosea. Analysis include author, date, social setting, theology, and message. You will get some of that from this commentary. You will get some of that from Sorry, I'm writing my dissertation. They have books absolutely everywhere. Uh, let's see. You will get some of that for books like this. This is Hassel Bullock's prophetic books. I really like this. It's an introduction to all of the prophetic books, but we're not doing preaching the prophets. We're doing preaching Amos and Hosea, so we're doing a more focused work. But if you're looking for a good book on interpreting the prophets, this is a book I enjoyed by Hassel Bullock. There are a lot of books out there. I originally had this book in the syllabus. It's available as an ebook. It's no longer in publication. But if you want to pick this book up, last time I looked, it was $10 on Kindle. It's a very informative book. It looks at the prophets from a preacher's perspective rather than an interpretive perspective. I'm going to do some lecturing from this book and some of the principles from this book later on. But if you want this a little more information regarding the prophets, just pick this book up, The Prophets as Preachers, also by Gary Smith. All right, now I have a book on Amos around here somewhere. Give me just a second. Oh, here we go. For example, let's say you decide to focus on Hosea. Let's say you decide to focus on Hosea. This is going to be your commentary. So what you're going to do is everyone is going to read this book, Amos and Hosea. Some of you will read, if you choose Hosea, you will read the Nikot. It's got a book jacket. I don't like book jackets. The book of Hosea by Andrew Dearman. You see it here. Here at the bottom. Now this other one, if you choose to do Amos, I have it on digital book. I actually do not have the hard copy. I have it on Logos. You can get whichever one you want, but I don't have it to show you. But if you decide that you want to study Amos or preach from the preacher sermon series from Amos, you will choose Smith's work. If you decide you want to do from Hosea, you will choose Dearman's work. And those are going to be your two commentaries, the two books you need to read. And that's going to be part of course requirement number 2, the annotated analysis. There is an error I want to point out. It says submit a 3-page single-space analysis for the 2 required, actually it says 3 required textbooks. I was asked to take this book off because of accessibility, but so take that assignment and remove that 3 and put it 2. I only want you to write an annotated analysis on this commentary and the commentary you choose, the Amos or Hosea, which of those 2 books are the 2 that you will focus on for your assignment number 2, your annotated analysis. So your weekly reading journal, I'm sorry, a lot of these assignments are I tried to interweave them to put them together so that when you do one assignment, you're actually helping yourself accomplish another assignment. So there's going to be a lot of overlap, and I understand the requirements of life and COVID and being a student. So I wanted everything to do not just to be busy work, but to be work that actually informs other parts of your assignments. Just maybe a little different focus. So that's why we have the weekly reading journal. That's just going to be a piece of form. I don't have a form. You can make one a Word document. You could actually take this and turn it into the end of the year. This is the weekly. I mean, at the end of the semester, if you wanted to, you could just put your name over here and the date you read it. However you want to do it, you could just write it out. You could type it out. Just as long as you have something to submit to me saying I read both interpretations of the Bible, the Christian Standard, and if you want to be more form-driven, you can use New American Standard. If you want to be more I don't want to say meaning-driven, more what's the word I'm looking for? Less formal. Let's go with that. Let's not focus. If you want to be more formal, go with the New American Standard. If you want to be less formal, go with the New Living Translation or the Message. If you want to go with the Message, I mean, it's up to you. But anyway, I think the Christian Standard Bible does a good job of balancing both form and meaning. So that's why I recommended that one. And if you choose to lean more form, that's fine. If you choose to lean more less formal, go towards the Message or whichever Bible. But I do want two translations and those read. And what I'm trying to expose you to is how different authors or groups of authors translate the text with different purposes. And that's what we are doing with Assignment 1, the Weekly Reading Journal. Also, if you need a recommendation on a second book of the Bible, I recommend the New American Standard, the New English translation, also called the Net. The Net has a lot of footnotes along with within the actual translation. The new, if you want a more formal version, the New Revised Standard Version. I read it some. You could read the NIV. I personally try to read the Christian Standard Version or the Net. It's usually my two. If you're ministering to more youth, the New Century Version is a Bible written at a 5th grade level. Or if you're smarter than a 5th grader, or if you remember that show, some of you might, maybe not. But that's a Bible written to a younger audience. If you're maybe in youth ministry and you want to use that Bible, see how they translated it. Okay, so that's weekly journal 1. Annotated analysis. Your annotated analysis. My phone just reminded me to breathe. My watch. An annotated analysis. I already talked about that. So we have this book, main commentary. Then you have the secondary commentary. I got so many books I've laid it down. I don't know where it's at. Secondary commentary. This is one for Hosea. We also have the blue one, for the NAC, the New American Commentary for Amos. And if you do get the NAC, do not worry about reading Obadiah and Jonah. That's just kind of a problem we run into. There are some commentaries solely on Amos. Gary Smith actually has another one. I didn't want to double you up on Gary Smith. I want to give you a different author. So I gave you Billy Smith. Don't have a clue if they're related. But I wanted you to have a different author rather than just the second author saying the same thing, or a second book from the same author that could possibly be saying the same thing. All right. I want you to just give a concise summary about the books. I'm going to tell on Assignment 2, Annotated Analysis. One of the more helpful features for Christian proclamation. How does this commentary help you preach the book of Micah? How does this commentary help you preach the book of Hosea? That's kind of what I'm looking for with B on annotated analysis. C, how does it limit you? One limit, if you I think if you had Russell Zwirner or Dr. Hughes, you're going to be text driven. They're going to talk to you probably text driven preaching. This commentary is not going to lend itself to the text driven model. Not that it's not. It's just not designed around that particular model. So that's just an example of a limitation or deficiency, difficulty. Just trying to get you to think critically about the commentaries you use. There are devotional commentaries, there are homiletical commentaries, there are exegetical commentaries, there's Hebrew or original language-based commentaries. I'm just trying to get you to think critically about those commentaries. All right, number 3, notebook. I'm on the second page of the syllabus, notebook. The student will complete a notebook containing the following: background analysis of the books Amos and Hosea, author, date, social setting, theology, and message. Now, you can get some of this from the commentary. I also would like for you to go outside the commentaries. Old Testament surveys is a good place for you to find this kind of information. And an Old Testament survey is essentially it's a collection of author, date, social setting, theology, and message, which you find in commentaries. But some authors take those out of the commentaries and they put them together, and then you have a survey of the entire Old Testament. So maybe you have your favorite Old Testament survey book. Maybe you have a Bible dictionary. Bible dictionary is another good place to pick this up. So I'm kind of wanting you to maybe pull a few sources together. I would rather you not rely solely on this. Don't just give me what he has again in your notebook. If you can do a little bit more research, maybe pick up a Bible dictionary or a dictionary of the Pentateuch. IVP's got a really good series called Dictionary of the Old Testament, and they have a series on the um, um, on the historical books. Excuse me, I'm gonna look it up right now on Logos. Yeah, Dictionary of the Old Testament, the Prophets. I had this open a while ago and I accidentally closed it. So they have their section on Amos has structure and argument, composition, interpretation, theology, place in a canon. So if you have that, I want to say you could probably look that up online too. Let me look that up real quick. I mean, Wikipedia has an article. Probably a good place to start. Really not a good place to finish. Maybe that's a good way of putting it. But that's a good place to start if you want to go to the book of Amos on Wikipedia. There's some external. There's a section for external links. You have under here an Old Testament. So yeah, just look at your encyclopedias, your Bible dictionaries. Those kind of literature, those kind of works for informing your background analysis. Also, this book here does a really good job on talking about the social setting. That's The Prophets as Preachers by Smith. That's section A under the notebook under assignment 3. Assignment B, literary features, language, and outline. Okay. What are some of the highlights of the literature? I'll give you one. Day of the Lord in the book of Amos. That's a literature feature. What is some of the structure of the book of Amos? What are some of the genre? For example, the book of Amos is commonly thought of as Amos 7 through 9 as the visions. Amos 1 through 2 is commonly thought of as the introduction. Let me look at Hosea, and I'll give you a couple. I don't want to give you all the information on Amos from the beginning to begin with. One of the structures, one of the elements of composition of the book of Hosea is it is written kind of from a third-person perspective. It's written around two primary characters, early on anyway. Hosea and Gomer. And of course, you have Lo Ruhamah, and you have the three children, Lo Ami. So these are kind of some of the literary features of the book. In the outline, okay, the outline, as you do your reading on the weekly reading journal of the books, I would probably start with developing my outline there. That's a good way for you to do. If you outline it and while you're doing your weekly reading journal, that's going to take care of the outline under Notebook B. And when I say 2 levels, I mean chapter, let me pull up an example. Sorry, everyone. I was planning on having a little time in class. I didn't really think through this. Let me find the outline on this page. Okay, let me go to Bullock's book. Okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. You see Bullock's book. Introduction. Okay. You see right here, Oracle against the nations. Okay. That's a main heading. It's a main heading. Oracle against the nations. Right there. Oracle against the nations. Okay, right below that, you have Oracle against Damascus, Gaza, Tyre, Edom, Ammonites. That's what I mean by 2 levels. You want to have a Roman numeral and then a letter. For example, the oracle against Israel from 2:6 to 2:16. I don't want you to subdivide that. I don't want you to get down to the minutia. If you pull up Smith's commentary, you'll see what I mean by subdividing it. He's going to subdivide. He's going to subdivide that into several. Let me pull that up. Amos outline. Yeah, so he subdivides the oracle against Israel into what Israel has done, what God has done, how Israel has responded, how God would respond. So he subdivides 2:6 through 16 into 4 more subheadings. I'm not looking for that. I'm only looking for the main. For example, in Amos, his introduction, it's 1 through 2. Oracles against the nations is 1:3 to 2:16, and then he just puts each nation under that. Oracle against Damascus 3 through 5, Oracle against Gaza 1:6 through 8. That's really all I'm looking for. I don't want you to get down to the minutia. I just want this for you to help think about this categorically as it applies to each nation and how the text is developing the argument within the text, the subject within the text, the object within the text, and when you do your preaching or do your teaching, your understanding, then we can look at maybe subdividing it expositionally or exegetically. I don't want you to do that for the notebook assignment. Maybe you want to, you can. You just don't have to. All right, notes from class lectures and commentaries. I just want you to be able to point some highlights out from the class lectures, some commentaries. So that's C, one sermon of others. All right, here's what I want you to do. Maybe you have a favorite preacher. Maybe you have a favorite older preacher, Charles Spurgeon, Harry Ironside, Stephen Rummage today, H.B. Charles, what's the president? J.D. Greer, Brian Chappell. Maybe whoever your favorite preacher is, or maybe you don't have a favorite preacher and you're going to look up for a favorite preacher. I want you to find one of their sermons on Amos or Hosea, and I want you to either read it, listen to it, or both. If some sermons may have an audio and a transcript, or if it's a video, I want you to watch the sermon and outline it and take sermon notes and then turn that in. I'm just trying to get you to think about how others treat Old Testament preaching. What do they look like? So that's going to be part of your sermon. If you have any more questions regarding that assignment, we'll talk about a lot of this in class. I just want to try to get some of it out of the way and answer some of your questions ahead of time and hopefully not create more questions than I do provide answers. These notebooks will be due at the end of class. They should be at least 10 pages in length. All right. Sermon project. Okay. This is your sermon project. It will be due at the end of class. 5 one-page sermon briefs or outlines. I got to put that sermon brief on Blackboard. I'm going to give you an inductive and a deductive sermon brief. We will talk about that on week 2. So we'll talk about that the first week of class, second week of class, our first together. We'll talk about that. Remind me of that. I'm going to put that in my notes. That way we'll talk about that because I'm going to want to find out where you guys are at with your inductive and deductive understanding of sermons and reasoning. I'm going to put that online here in a little bit. The inductive and the deductive sermon brief. 5 different passages. And now here's what we're going to do during class. So a lot of this, some of the legwork for this is going to actually be done in, got a gnat, sorry. Some of the legwork for this assignment is going to be done in class. So what I'm thinking, how I'm going to start approaching the class is we're going to work through the text, and we're going to work through the exegesis and the homiletics and how it relates to a sermon series. So some of this will actually be able to be covered or accomplished in class. So in we will focus on the day we focus on Hosea 1 through 3. Hoping I'm going to urge you to develop a CIT and or essence of the sermon in a sentence or proposition, or I mean everybody uses their own word. Big idea, a subject complement, a thesis for the actual text. So I'm going to ask you to do that day. So some of the sermon project, at least the initial legwork for the sermon project, we should be able to address that, a lot of that in class. At least I want to, and I'm hoping the class goes the way I want it to. Like I said, a lot of the students are going to be viewing from a distance, and I'm just waiting to hear feedback from you about who's going to participate in live and who's going to be watching it later. Okay. What you're going to do with the sermon project is you're going to have 5 sermon briefs. And I want you to think about this as a sermon series, not just, Amos 1, Amos 4, Amos 9, Hosea 3, Hosea. I mean, let's focus on a series of sermons. And it may be 5 sermons from Hosea. It may be 5 sermons from Hosea 1 through 7. It may be 5 sermons from Hosea 1 through 9. I'm not going to tell you which passages you need to focus on. I'm just telling you, I want you to think about how I can preach this in my church as a sermon series moving forward, or when I get a church, or in my life group, or in my youth group, or maybe you have an online ministry. I don't, wherever your ministry context is. So that's what I want you to focus on the sermon project. All right, last assignment: sermon compositions and delivery. All right, the student will compose a sermon on a passage from either Amos or Hosea. Okay. You see this assignment right here on week 3? That's what this is. You're going to write 2 sermons in this course. You're going to write 2 sermons in this course. All right, and this is going to be the same sermon. Now let me explain. I'm doing this because I want to chart your growth and development through the course. I know, at least in my experience, I'm finishing up my PhD, writing my dissertation in preaching with a minor in New Testament and hopefully theology also. But in my course work, and I started Level College in 2008, so I've been through where I've always found it difficult to assess where I was at the beginning of preaching courses and at the end of preaching courses. So I have this passage, this sermon in here, the sermon composition, because I want to have a tangible expression of, and I want you to see that I don't really, I need this for grading and I need this for self-reflection, but I want you to see and chart your growth as someone who understands and interprets Scripture, and a proclaimer of Scripture, someone who understands the text. And the best way in my mind right now is for you to compose a sermon at the beginning of the text. You're not going to be graded on the quality of this sermon. Let me give you a caveat. Do the best you can with where you're at right now. You've had intro to preaching, so you understand the basic principles of Christian proclamation. If you haven't had Christian intro to preaching, I need you to email me immediately. So we need to work on getting that taken care of, intro to preaching. So I want you to walk through either Amos or Hosea, and I want you to, excuse me, I have another thought come to mind. Let me write this down. If we were in class, I'd say, hold that thought. But I want you to look through and see which book you want to study. If you choose your focus on Amos, you will focus on the two Smith commentaries. If you focus on Hosea, you will do Gary Smith and Endearman. And if you really like Amos chapter 2 or Hosea chapter 3 or Hosea chapter 3 and 4, whichever passage. Maybe you've never preached from either one of these passages. Maybe you preached from one. I want this sermon to be an original composition by you, and I want it written at least, 4 pages, 5 pages. I'm just trying to get a baseline for where you're at. And I'm hoping if I do my job and if we learn together as a unit, as a group, then by the time we get to the end of the semester, I want to be able to look. So at the same sermon, and that's the same sermon you're going to preach if you choose Amos on week 8 or Hosea on week 9. Now, the reason we have to do Hosea during week 9 is because of the coronavirus, and school is going to go into a video only, a off-campus only after the holidays, and they're trying to prevent a second outbreak or second wave of the coronavirus. So that's that focus. If you want to preach on Hosea 11, go ahead and write on Hosea 11. We'll cover it. You'll just have to preach your sermon and get with me if you want to choose those two. Ideally, I would have you preaching Hosea on week 16 during December 14th, but because of the coronavirus, we're not going to be in class. But if you want to preach on Hosea 12 or Hosea 14, Hosea 10, 11, 13, whichever one, go ahead and choose that, and then we will work through that. You just won't get the benefit of working through it in class together. Okay. So I want both of those sermons. I want the composition before week 4. I have week 3 assignment due. I want that composition before September the 14th. That's where I want the composition, and I want you to have that composition to me. So I'm going to put a link on that. I'm going to put a link for sermon composition, the first one, and then I will do the second one, and that second one is going to be the same sermon you preach. If you have some questions about that, just let me know. I'm trying to be clear. I understand it's difficulty when I'm here. You can't ask questions. I can't hear questions immediately. But I'm looking for you to work through that sermon and go ahead and provide me that sermon. All right, I'm 32 minutes. I'm sorry. I know it's a lot. Just familiarize yourself with the passage. Email me, call me, message me. God bless. Have a great day.